So in this segment, we're going to be discussing Yvette Cooper absolutely slamming Suella Braverman over, the police failings, especially in regards to women. You have a case where a former police officer was convicted of raping 20, I think it's around 24 women, and he was a serving police officer for a long time. And this is the government, this is the Labour Party saying that we have called for change for a long time now, and you guys have done nothing, absolutely nothing. Braverman does say in a longer clip that it's not time to play politics and blah blah blah, but it's about time you did your job, pal. It's about time you did your job. So let's go to the clip.
After the murder of Sarah Everard by a serving officer, Labour called for change. After the horrific murders of Bieber Henry and Nicole Smallman, Labour called for leadership. After the shameful case of Child Q, Labour called for reform. After the shocking Charing Cross station report, Labour demanded action. After the Stephen Port inquiry, Labour called for reform. And after the cases right across the country of abuse or of misogyny, Labour has demanded change. Conservative ministers promised action would be taken, but they have.
We've had, a load of different Home Ministers in the last 12 to 13 years that have done nothing. We had Theresa May, we had Sajid Javid, we had Amber Rudd, we've had Suella Braverman, we've had Priti Patel, who have done nothing, absolutely nothing to deal with police failings in this country, especially the Met Police. And I think that's because they don't want the Met Police to do any investigations into them, so they have left it so that the Met Police are left alone, and that way the Tory government is left alone by the Met Police. That's what it feels like. But if you look at some of the failings, I think in the Manchester Police Force, there's a lot of failings there, a lot of issues with IT systems, among other things, with police officers, etc. And they really have to take a root and branch approach. Like I saw Starmer saying recently, they have to make major reforms to the police service, even changing the name of the Met Police to something else. He did speak about his experience in Northern Ireland, about reforming the police in Northern Ireland to, I think they're called the PSNI. Maybe that's something that needs to be done, where you have to fundamentally change so much about the way police forces are, because this might be kind of my American TV knowledge like overriding everything else here, but police officers typically try and back each other regardless of what the police officer's done, especially if they're in the wrong. Closed ranks, blue shields, all of this kind of nonsense, us against them, the public, when I think what you have to do is create a culture of police officers can come out and discuss the crimes and the failings that other police officers have done with anonymity and without being anything to come back to haunt them, basically, because they say, oh, it's only a few rotten apples, but the saying goes, a few rotten apples spoils the bunch, and that's something the police forces and MPs have to remember here.
Have failed to do so. Labour will change the law. Labour will overhaul the vettings, misconduct and standards system, because it is time for change. And we are letting down police officers across the country who do excellent work and who are being let down by these failures in the system. And most of all, women are being let down.
If we look at, the vetting process, some of the police officers that were recruited under the big Tory drive for police officers, some of them are bloody white supremacists. White supremacists, that's terrifying. In the police. Madness, absolute madness. So yeah, the vetting process needs to be changed. There needs to be a lot of change done to the way policing is done in this country, the way recruitment is done. Because there are a lot of good police officers. I've had interactions with them, me, a brown male. I've had good interactions with them. I've never really had an issue with them. But, there are other people with, from other backgrounds that may have issues with the police force. I'm a dude, like the chance of me being assaulted by a police officer in the way that some of these women have, it will never happen to me. But, the idea that women are safe, especially with the Met Police, if you're in London, I don't think that's true. I think there are way too many of these police officers who won't out each other, that are in like WhatsApp groups and other things, that are happy to talk about abusing women, and some of them are happy to carry it out. It's terrifying, I'll be honest.
It's too late for all the warm words in the Home Secretary's statement. What is she actually going to do to make sure that standards are raised?
I think what you've got to do is create an independent police force that doesn't, that has political oversight, that's there to root out bad police officers. It can go across country, it can look at cases of police abuse and other things, any accusations against police, and they can independently investigate them. These aren't friends of the police or anything like that. These will be like probably the most hated police officers in the country, because they'll be there to investigate other police officers. I think that's the only way you can kind of deal with this. Genuinely, I don't know any other way, because It doesn't take a lot of them to cause problems, but there are enough dodgy police officers that are causing problems, and there are even more of those happy to look the other way. The amount of domestic abuse allegations against police officers in this country is absolutely staggering. Absolutely staggering, and you hear more and more stories about the numbers of women who have been abused by police officers in relationships. It's just madness, absolute madness. So shouts out to Cooper for kind of laying this out. I think what I want to see before the next election is kind of Labour's plan to deal with it, because this will be a major thing that the Labour Party, once they come into charge, is to deal with the police forces, and they won't be popular. It's the police's job to look after politicians and make sure they don't get hurt. There'll be a lot of police officers who will be very annoyed at Labour that may not do their jobs properly, and that's something Labour and I think all politicians are generally scared of. But something has to be done about these police officers who are genuinely not doing their jobs properly. It is terrifying. But anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Support the channel on Patreon if you can. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one.